Hey everybody, my name's Ryan. This is Ask the Pastor. I answer questions that the internet asks me about God and life and wearing a pot on your head, whatever it is that people want to ask me. I've got a question today. It says, since the Bible says, you shall not have any other gods before me, and that God is a jealous God, does this infer that there are other minor gods out there, or just simply as symbolism for idolatry? Getting back to basics. It's literally in the question. She says, getting back to basics. Oh my goodness, this is not a basic question. I mean, yes, it kind of is. Like you're dealing with monotheism, right? Or one God. But it steps on something that's really, really interesting. Here's the straight answer to the question. Does this imply there are other small gods out there? Kinda, a little bit. That verbiage does sort of kind of imply that, depending on the reader and the context and how we're engaging and what we are going to do with the text. Now, the most orthodox, the most appropriate Christian response to that is to say that that language is used in representing small gods that are not really gods, right? So if you are in the ancient Near East and you are saying, hey, what are you going to do about Baal, right? Because Baal's a big problem. Like Baal is out there. There are these tribes and they are going to attack you and they worship Baal and they do things to you because they think Baal said to. And so like the question of like, well, how do we deal with Baal is a valid question. Jesus has similar questions. He says, you cannot serve God and money. So he elevates money to the status as like a rival for God. The New Testament, or the King James Version translates that mammon. Like it literally uses a word of a rival God. That word is a God that people worship. And if you're in a New Testament context, this is a Hellenized world. It's a Romanized world where there's a God named liberty. There's a God named victory, winning. There's a God named health. There's a God named romantic love. And so to say, oh, well, I don't believe in any other gods. Well, do you believe in money? Do you believe in romantic love? Because you might not believe like romantic love is actually the son of Aphrodite and flies around and shoots you with arrows, right? That's what Eros does. But like you believe in it, right? Like maybe you don't believe in the picture, in the conceptualization we draw of Eros, but like you believe in it, don't you? Don't you? And so what does it mean to worship God alone and to still recognize that there are other beliefs and other forces and other priorities that are out there that work like small gods? Now, I'm gonna step on some like dangerous territory here, but I'm coming out. So people ask me more questions if I'm like bothering you or stepping on something that's important to you here. One of the words that the New Testament uses for these small gods is borrowed from Greek mythology, and they use the word demons. They refer to demons, and a daimon in ancient Greek mythology is a small god. It's like a supernatural household thing. And by the way, I should mention, there was a really important god in the New Testament context. His name was Caesar, right? He's a god. People worshipped him. And so like, hey, God doesn't want you to have any other gods before him. That means no Caesar. And for you to say, oh, well, I don't believe in any other gods. Okay, but like, still no worshiping Caesar, right? Like, so what do we do with all of that? And also, I'm talking in this New Testament context. What about this Old Testament context, right? Where we're more dealing with these tribes and these other ideas, and what do we do with that? Like, we can go so deep with this conversation about monotheism, about what it means to worship one God, and it's all related to this concept of like, what's a God? How do you conceptualize a God? How do you think about a God? And what makes a God to you? But God says, I'm a jealous God. Now, jealousy, the jealousy is translated, that English word is chosen, trusting that English speakers are going to use the precise use of the term jealousy. And if we're being precise, which usually as English speakers we're not, because what do you want from us, right? There's a difference between envy and jealousy. Envy is when you want something someone else has. Jealousy is when you are afraid someone else is going to take what you have. God is not an envious God. God doesn't want something that the other gods have. God is a jealous God. God doesn't want you to take what you have that you're giving to God, that God deserves, that God should be entitled to, and give it to something else. Give it to something that's not really a God. Give it to something that's not really going to serve you, that's not really going to protect you, that's not really got your best interests at heart. God is jealous. God doesn't want to lose what he has in you, your heart, your love, your devotion, your trust. So that's what it means for God to be a jealous God, and for God to have no other gods, no gods of these other nations, and no small representative gods, no personifications of these other ideas before him. The one God, the God of all the universe, the God that is one, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who blessed us to be a blessing. That's the one God we should worship. And when we dig deep into this question of other gods, it should allow us to dig deeper into the question of theism itself, into the question of what it means to believe in a God at all. Because the question isn't, are there any gods? At least not to me. The statement to an ancient world of like, no, nothing that could be a god exists. Like, no, anything could be a god. We got new gods all over the place. You can worship anything. The question is, what does it mean to worship the one thing? What does it mean to find the reality that undergirds all the chaos, and to believe that there is something controlling it, and that thing is good, that thing can love, and that thing actually can draw you close? That's the kind of God that we worship as Christians. If that answers your question, I hope that you'll share this and tell other people that, hey, I asked a question, I got a good answer. If it doesn't answer your question, or even if it wasn't your question, but you've got like more questions that bubbled up, come on, ask them to me. Especially, I'd love for you to get on a video. Use a cell phone camera. It doesn't have to be pretty. Get on a video. Send it to me, pastor@collegeparkpress.org. We can talk more about it. And if you've got your own question, I'd love for you to send it by video, or even just down in the doobly-doo. Remember to like and do all that stuff, and watch these videos. I'll see you next time.